In this video, I want to show you the new 15 amp hour flex volt battery from DeWalt. This is the DCB615, and as you can see, it's absolutely massive. To the right here, you see the 5 amp hour 20 volt battery. On top, you see the 9 amp hour flex volt battery, and this is the 6 amp hour 20 volt battery. Now, it's a big battery, but the 15 amp hour battery is only 4.5 pounds versus 3 pounds for the 9 amp hour battery. So it's actually a little lighter, ounce per ounce. It's a little lighter. You're looking at about 5 ounces of weight per amp hour for the 15 amp hour battery and 6 ounces of weight for the 9 amp hour battery. So there's an advantage. What I'm doing here is I'm testing all my tools to make sure they fit with the new 15 amp hour battery or they don't. And as you can see, this driver here, DCD615, and the other drivers that I have here, which is the DCB709 and here the DCF887, they all fit. Now you may have to remove the little belt clip there, but that's an easy fix. And here's the Big Daddy, the impact wrench, DCF899, and it's certainly a heavy workout with that big battery, but they all fit fine. Like I said, you may have to remove the belt clip there. Well, that's easy, right? But with this battery, they all seem to run like all afternoon, really. And this is a tool here, the pneumatic hammer, the DCH273, and that one works really, really well with the new battery. And the battery fits. And this thing usually goes through batteries quite quickly, but with the 15 amp hour battery, I think that's a great pairing that works really, really well. So for all the drivers and drills that I tested, this battery seems to fit just fine. You may just have to remove the belt clip, but you know, that's a minor thing. So A+. Now, the DCL043, this is the 4 LED flashlight, 3 white LEDs and 1 red LED. This is the older model. This has been a camping favorite for us, and with this 15 amp hour battery, it literally runs 3 straight days. So we just left it on, you know, night and day, and it ran for 3 days straight, which is awesome. So we will definitely take this new 15 amp hour battery with us to the next camping trip. And keep in mind, yes, it's a heavy combination. It's got quite a bit of weight, but, you know, it's going to sit on the ground most of the time anyway. So no problem. All right, next up, I'm going to test a few other tools. Here is the router DCW600. And that one goes through batteries fairly quickly as well. So I was curious if that's going to fit to the 15 amp hour battery. And again, yes, it has a lot of weight. But at the same time, you know, a lot of times this router is going to be in a router table, or you have it mounted somewhere and you're running stock across it, like, you know, base trim or whatever. And so I don't think the weight penalty is too bad. And even if you want to freehand things, it's still, you know, it's still manageable. So yeah, this works. This fits just fine. And again, since this tool uses a lot of power, I think this is a great combination with this new 15 amp hour battery. All right, next up we have an angle grinder. This is model DCG413. And again, the battery fits just fine. It's a little heavy, certainly, and it kind of sticks out there in the back, but it works. And I like the idea of using this big battery and being able to grind on metal or whatever all day long without running out of power. Okay, next up we have a oscillating multifunction tool. This is model DCS356, and you see it here with the optional depth gauge block installed. I'll put a link in the description for this video. This is something that's, I think, is very useful. Again, the DCB615 fits. It's a little heavy, and personally, I think I'm less of a fan using this big battery here because the multi-tools, you know, you want to be able to get into small spaces and maybe not such a good combination. Next up, we have a grease gun. This is DCGG571. My first impression was this might be pretty heavy, but on the other hand, you have this shoulder strap that you can just click in at these metal tabs here. And with that, all the weight is going to hang off your shoulder. It's actually really comfortable. It doesn't bother me at all, and this grease gun is very power efficient anyway, but with this battery, the 15 amp hours, it's going to run all day. On a 9 amp hour, I typically get anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 cartridges. Kind of depends on the grease. But with this 15 amp hour battery, all day long, which is great. Let's move to our first chainsaw. This is the 8-inch pruning saw, DCB615. And honestly, I think this is our favorite new chainsaw. We're using this all the time. It's great for, pruning, of course, but then also for cutting down smaller trees around the driveway or whatever. And we're using it primarily with the 9 amp hour battery so far. A little on the heavy side, but, it's kind of nice to be able to run this for hours without changing the battery. And I was really hoping that 15 amp hour battery would fit. But as you can see on this 15 amp hour battery, it's got these little tabs, these little plastic tabs, and it's going to collide with that handguard there. And I think that's really unfortunate. So you see that right there, these little plastic tabs or wings prevent you from using the DCB615 in this 8-inch pruning saw, which is a real bummer. I was kind of looking forward to that. I'm also wondering, this is a fairly new tool. This pruning saw just came out. The DCB615 was out already. So why didn't DeWalt pay attention to that and engineer this battery in a way that, or engineer this pruning saw in a way that this would fit? That's kind of that's a real miss, I think, in my opinion. Anyway, so DCB615 does not fit on the 8-inch pruning saw. Let's move on to some other chainsaws. Here you have the super popular DCCS620. Yes, I know it's got problems with oil leakage. I need to do a new video on that. This one has a 14-inch bar from Oregon installed, but this is our second most often used chainsaw. We've actually got 2 of them. And this one, again, would be great with the 15 amp hour battery. I love this chainsaw. We use it with the 9 amp hour all the time, which fits really well and, also balances nicely. And this, I was really looking forward to be able to use the 15 amp hour battery on. However, this is the same problem because of these stupid little plastic tabs that the DCB615 battery has. It's not going to fit into the opening here. And, I think DeWalt really kind of missed the engineering bar on this a little bit. This is literally like 1/8 of an inch of plastic overlap here. I mean, this is not much. But for some reason, they didn't engineer this right. And the DCB615 battery does not fit on the 12-inch chainsaw DCCS620, which I think is a real bummer. So, I thought about potentially dremeling off these stupid little plastic wings, but who knows, then maybe it doesn't fit into some other tool in the future, so I don't want to do that. But in this case, doesn't fit. Bummer. I think that's a miss by DeWalt. Okay, let's move on to the next chainsaw. This model here is the DCCS670. This is DeWalt's 16-inch 60-volt chainsaw, and as you can see, it has this cradle built in. So this cradle, this is where the battery sits, and it's nicely protected in case you drop the saw or anything like that. The 9 amp hour battery fits fine, and there's a little bit of room here. So I was hopeful, and indeed, the DCB615 15 amp hour battery fits just fine as well. As you can see, it sticks out a little bit, but, it's balanced very well still, in my mind. Maybe a little back heavy, and we'll get to that in a moment. But it works just fine. Until I noticed that the battery, the DCB615, actually has a warning on it. Here you see the size difference. The battery says on the back, do not use with DCCS670, the chainsaw that I just showed you. And of course I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So I opened up a support ticket with DeWalt. I asked them, and they basically said, this is because the battery is so heavy, it's going to make it, kind of tail heavy and will increase the chance of kickback. which I guess is true, so use at your own risk. Okay, and here's the big daddy. This is the 20-inch 60-volt chainsaw DCCS615, and this is a great chainsaw. We use it all the time, and again, you can see this has a kind of battery cradle built in, and this DCB615 battery fits just fine. And actually, from the specs that I read with DeWalt, and also from just using it, this DCB615 battery gives you an extra about half a horsepower in addition to all the other flex volt batteries. So I think this is a great use case for the DCB615. Extra power, half a horsepower, that's nothing to sneer at. It also balances really well with the 615 battery. And of course, it also works with the other flex volt batteries, the 60 volt flex volt batteries, the 9 amp hour, for example, here. The one thing that I wish they would have done a little differently is put a lid onto this battery cradle to put sawdust or wood chips out of this. But okay, not such a big deal. So I think in this case, the DCB615 battery with the extra runtime and the extra half horsepower of extra grunt is a great use case for this battery. The one thing I've noticed is it does seem to overheat a little faster. This is just personal impression. So I have 2 of those batteries just in case. All right, next up, we have some other outdoor tools. This is the DCBL722 blower. And this thing actually uses quite a bit of power. So I was really looking forward to use the DCB615 battery on this. So far, we've been using the DCB609, which is the 9 amp hour battery on this, and that one fits just fine. So you see that right here. And a lot of these tools that have these kind of external or towards the tail battery docking stations, they're usually pretty good with extra clearance around the battery. So this is the 9 amp hour battery, fits just fine, and you see it has a little bit extra room there. And this is the DCB615, the 15 amp hour battery. Still balances really well because the handle is so far back. Sticks out a little bit on the side. I don't think that's a big deal. And this works really well. I'm so happy about the extra runtime. And I think that's also a great use case for the 15 amp hour battery. This blower DCBL722. Here we have the DCST970 string trimmer. This is another tool we use all the time. This has mostly replaced our Stihl gas-powered string trimmer, and it's a great tool, but it also sucks quite a bit of power, so I was really hoping to use the DCB615 battery. So here you see the 9 amp hour battery, and you see the clearance around this in this battery cradle, it's very tight. And sure enough, trying to use the 15 amp hour battery, it doesn't fit, which again, you're talking like 1/8 of an inch, of clearance here. That's really an engineering miss, in my opinion. But that's a real bummer because I think this string trimmer would really benefit from a bigger battery. Boo. Also, with the big batteries, it still balances really well because you have this mid-mount handle and you can actually move that. You see the screw tabs there on this handle here on the left. So you can move that handle up and down a little bit if you want to. And yeah, I think this would have been a great way to use more power. But we're in luck. This battery cradle is removable. So this is something that DeWalt did right. So you see those screw holes here. And what I just did is, this is Torx 20, right? So just standard pretty much. I just removed that and comes off really easy. 3 screws on each side. And now you don't have that battery cradle anymore. So if you drop the string trimmer or something, the battery might get damaged. But at least it fits. So these are the Torx 20. What I ended up doing is I just put them back into the trimmer and screwed them back in there. And then I used the battery here, the 615, and now it fits. And again, it still balances really well, in my opinion. And I think it's a great use case for that DCST970 string trimmer because that uses quite a bit of power. So Yep, a little bit of a workaround, but really not that big of a deal, and maybe DeWalt can, in future revisions of this tool, make that plastic cradle a little bigger. So, anyway. And the last tool I have here is the Lawnmower DCMW220. This, I think, is one of the earliest lawnmowers. This is quite old, and originally it came with 9 amp hour batteries, which we use quite a bit. And this battery cradle with the lid has quite a bit of extra clearance around it. So just to show you how the DCB615 fits in here, it does fit, but you can close the lid, which means you might get some grass clippings or, some debris in there. And to show you the difference between the two batteries, 9 amp hour on the left, 15 amp hour on the right, it's quite a bit of a size difference, but it works. 2 DCB615s fit in here and gives you some extra runtime. So what do I think of this battery all up? Well, on the Pro side, there's definitely the massive 15 amp hour capacity. That's absolutely amazing. It also adds extra power, for example, to the 20-inch chainsaw. That's half a horsepower. The build quality is also super solid, and it fits on most, but not all, FlexVault tools. And I will keep a validated list in the description of this video, so you can always come back and check. Now, there are also some drawbacks of this battery. First of all, it doesn't fit on all the FlexVault tools. And in my mind, that breaks the FlexVault promise, which states that all FlexVault batteries fit on all the FlexVault tools. And that's simply not true anymore. And from personal experience, it seems like the DCB615 overheats a little quicker or easier than the DCB612 or the DCB609. And my workaround is to basically just have 2 of those batteries, and when one overheats, I'll put the other one in and let the first one cool down. And last but not least, you pay more for each amp hour in the DCB615 battery. So on the DCB609, you pay roughly about $15 per amp hour, and on the DCB615, you pay about $25 per amp hour. So I would wait until you see a sale and then purchase that battery. And like I said, I'll keep an updated list of tools where the battery doesn't fit in the description of the video. So final rating, 4 stars. It's a solid battery. It has super high capacity. I think that's the highest capacity of any of the tool systems. A little pricey, it doesn't fit on all the tools, and unfortunately it breaks the FlexVault promise. So if you need the capacity, go for it. Otherwise, it'll be cheaper to buy multiple DCB609s. If you thought this was useful, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.